My husband left me for his secretary, but he never expected what happened next. I'm Barbara. I'm 46 years old. 5 years ago, my husband of 16 years walked out on me and our 4 children for a woman young enough to be his daughter. At the time, I thought my life was over. I was 41. 4 kids, no career. I'd spent 16 years supporting him, raising our family, sacrificing everything while he built his success. And when he didn't need me anymore, he left. But this story isn't about him leaving. It's about what happened after, about choices, consequences, and discovering that sometimes the person you underestimate the most is yourself. Before I tell you how we met, how it all fell apart, and what happened in the years that followed, I need to know where you're listening from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. Let me know this story reached you. And please, hit that subscribe button. We share real stories from real women, everyday stories about survival, strength, and second chances. When I met David in 2002, he had nothing. I had everything. I chose him anyway, built him up, stood by him, believed in him, and for years, it was good. We were happy, or I thought we were. Then success changed him, money changed him, and a 26-year-old secretary changed everything else. What happened next, the way it all unraveled, the choices I had to make, the life I'm living now versus the life he's living, none of it went the way either of us expected. Stay with me, because this story about a marriage, a betrayal, and what happens when you finally stop being the person everyone expects you to be, it's worth hearing until the end. I met David in the fall of 2002. I was 23 years old, working at a marketing firm in downtown Boston. He was 25, juggling a part-time job at a bookstore while attending law school at night. We met at that bookstore. Actually, I'd gone in looking for a book on advertising campaigns. He was restocking shelves, wearing a name tag and a tired smile. "Can I help you find something?" he asked. "I'm looking for books on advertising, for work." He walked me to the business section, started pulling books, explaining what each one covered. He was knowledgeable, passionate. You could tell he actually read these books instead of just shelving them. "You seem to know a lot about this," I said. "I read when it's slow, helps pass the time. Plus, I figure if I'm going to be here, might as well learn something." "Smart. Not smart enough to avoid student loans," he laughed, "but I'm working on it." We talked for 20 minutes, about books, about his law school classes, about my job at the marketing firm. He had this way of listening, really listening, that made you feel like what you were saying actually mattered. Before I left, he wrote his phone number on a bookmark, in case you need more book recommendations, or, just want to talk. I called him 3 days later. We went to coffee, then dinner, then coffee again. David was different from anyone I'd dated before. The men I'd grown up around, the ones my parents approved of, were polished, established, comfortable. David was none of those things. He lived in a tiny studio apartment with furniture from thrift stores, owned 3 work shirts that he rotated through the week, took the bus everywhere because he couldn't afford a car. But he had something those other men didn't: ambition, drive, and a humility that came from actually struggling, not just talking about struggles from the comfort of privilege. My parents weren't thrilled when I brought him home for Thanksgiving that year. "He's a bookstore clerk," my mother whispered in the kitchen. "He's in law school, working his way through. That takes character. Character doesn't pay bills, Barbara." But I didn't care about bills. I cared about the way David looked at me, like I was the best thing that had ever happened to him, like he couldn't believe his luck. "You're so far out of my league," he told me one night. We were in his apartment, eating takeout on his secondhand couch. "There are no leagues. That's high school thinking. I'm serious. You could be with anyone, someone with money, someone established, and you're here with me, in this tiny apartment, eating cheap Chinese food. I'm here because I want to be here, because you're worth being here for." He pulled me close. "I'm going to make something of myself, Barbara. I promise. I'm going to be someone you can be proud of. I'm already proud of you." And I was watching him work 40 hours a week at the bookstore, then go to classes at night, then study until 2 a.m. It was inspiring. He never complained, never gave up, just kept pushing forward. We dated for a year and a half. In the spring of 2004, he graduated from law school, passed the bar exam on his first try, got hired at a small law firm in Boston. "It's not a big firm," he told me. "Starting salary is modest, but it's a foot in the door, a chance to build something. It's perfect." "You're perfect." That summer, he proposed. We were at the public garden, sitting by the pond. He pulled out a ring small diamond, simple band, probably cost him 2 months' salary. Barbara, I don't have much to offer you right now, but I promise I will. I promise I'm going to build a life you deserve. Will you marry me? I said yes before he finished the question. We got married in October of 2004. Small ceremony. My parents came, though they made their reservations clear. His mother came, his father had passed away when David was young. A handful of friends, simple reception, at a restaurant. My parents paid for most of it. David was embarrassed about that, wanted to contribute more. But I told him it didn't matter, that we were building our future together, that the money didn't define us. We moved into a one-bedroom apartment in Cambridge. I kept my job at the marketing firm. David started at the law firm, working insane hours, 70, 80 hours a week, coming home exhausted but determined. I'm learning so much, he'd tell me. The senior partners are giving me real cases, real responsibility. This is exactly what I need. Those first couple years were hard financially, but good emotionally. We were a team, partners. When David had a tough case, I'd help him think through strategy. When I had a bad day at work, he'd listen, really listen, the way he'd done in that bookstore. At night, we'd lie in bed talking about the future, about the house we'd buy someday, the kids we'd have, the life we were building together. I'm going to take care of you, David would say, give you everything, a big house, security, everything you gave up for me. I didn't give up anything. I chose you. That's different. Still, I won't forget what you did, supporting me, believing in me. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure you know you made the right choice. In 2006, David made junior partner at his firm. A significant raise came with it. We moved to a bigger apartment, started saving for a house. We're actually doing it, he said, looking at our savings account balance, building something real. We've always been building something real. Now we just have money to show for it too. By 2008, we had enough for a down payment on a house in the suburbs, 3 bedrooms, small yard, good school district. It felt like a mansion compared to where we'd started. This is it, David said, standing in our empty living room on moving day. This is where we'll raise our family, where we'll build our life. I was already pregnant with Jake. We'd been trying for a year. When I told David, he cried, actually cried. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to have a family with you. Sometimes I still can't believe this is real. Jake was born in March 2009. David was 32. I was 30. We were exhausted and overwhelmed and completely in love with this tiny human we'd created. David was a good father in those early days, would come home from work and immediately take Jake from me, change diapers, do midnight feedings when he could. On weekends, he'd strap Jake to his chest and walk around the neighborhood, talking to him about everything and nothing. I want him to know my voice, David explained. Want him to feel safe with me. The law firm where David worked was growing. He was taking on bigger cases, more responsibility. The money got better. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Could afford things we couldn't before. Nicer furniture, a reliable car, small luxuries. In 2013, Emma was born. Then Noah in 2015. Then Lily in 2017. 4 kids in 8 years. Our house went from quiet to chaos. Toys everywhere, noise constantly, beautiful chaos. I'd stopped working when Jake was born. It just made sense. Childcare for 1 kid was expensive. 4, impossible. And I didn't mind. I loved being home with them. Loved being the one who saw their first steps, heard their first words, shaped their days. David's career kept climbing. He made senior partner in 2014, started bringing in major clients. His income doubled, then tripled. We renovated the house, got a bigger car, started building savings again. But something else was happening too. Something I didn't see clearly at first. Something subtle. David was changing. The changes in David started small. So small, I didn't recognize them as warning signs. I thought they were just growth, success, the natural evolution of a man who'd worked hard and was finally reaping the rewards. In 2015, around the time Noah was born, David started paying more attention to his appearance. Nothing dramatic, just shopping at nicer stores, buying better suits, getting his hair cut at an expensive salon instead of the barbershop he'd gone to for years. You look good, I told him one morning. He was wearing a new suit, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. Senior partners need to look the part. Clients expect a certain image. That made sense. Of course it did. Successful lawyers dressed well. This was professional necessity, not vanity. But then came the cologne. expensive bottles that cost more than our grocery bill, and the shoes, Italian leather, $300 a pair. David, these are beautiful, but do you really need 5 pairs? I'm meeting with major clients now, $1 million cases. I need to look like someone they can trust with that kind of money. Again, it made sense, but something felt different. The way he looked in the mirror before leaving for work, the time he spent on his appearance. It wasn't just professional pride, it was something else. The hours got longer. David had always worked hard, but this was different. He'd leave at 7 a.m., come home at 9, 10 p.m., sometimes later. Big case, he'd say, can't talk about it. Client confidentiality. On weekends, he'd go to the office. Saturday mornings, Sunday afternoons, sometimes both days. I thought you'd be home this weekend, I'd say, looking at the 4 kids who'd been asking for their dad all morning. I know, I'm sorry, but this case is crucial. If I land this client, we're talking serious money, serious security for our family. For our family, that's what he always said. He was doing this for us, for our future. How could I complain about that? But Jake would ask, where's Daddy? And I'd have to explain that Daddy was working, again. Emma would cry when he missed her dance recital. Noah stopped asking if Daddy could play catch because the answer was always Daddy's working. And Lily was too young to understand why the man who lived in our house was never actually there. You're missing so much, I told David one night. It was after 11. He'd just gotten home. The kids had been asleep for hours. I know, and I hate it. But this phase won't last forever. Once I establish myself more, once I have enough saved, I can scale back, be more present. When will that be? Soon, I promise. Just a little longer. But soon never came. The hours got longer, the absences more frequent, and something else started happening. David stopped really looking at me. Oh, he'd glance my way, acknowledge my presence. But that focused attention he used to give me, the way he'd really see me, really listen, that disappeared. Conversations became transactional. What's for dinner? Did you pay the electric bill? Jake needs new shoes. Nothing real, nothing deep, just logistics. At night, he'd come home, eat quickly, maybe spend 15 minutes with the kids, if they were still awake, then go to his home office to work more, or say he was working. I stopped knowing for sure what he was doing in there. When we did talk, really talk, it was usually me asking questions, and him giving minimal answers. How was your day? Fine. Busy. Anything interesting happen? Just work stuff. Nothing you'd understand. Nothing I'd understand. That phrase started appearing more often, as if 16 years of marriage and raising 4 children had somehow made me less intelligent, less capable of understanding his world. I tried. God, I tried. I'd read articles about his cases, tried to engage with his work, ask thoughtful questions. I read about that merger you're working on, in the Globe. Sounds complex. It is. Too complex to explain right now. I'm tired. So I stopped trying, stopped asking, went back to managing our household, raising our children, being the invisible foundation of his success. My mother noticed during a visit in 2017, he barely speaks to you, she observed. We were in the kitchen. David was in his office, door closed, even though it was Sunday afternoon. He's just stressed. Big case. There's always a big case. Barbara, when was the last time he actually looked at you, talked to you, treated you like a wife instead of household staff? That's not fair. He works hard for this family. And what do? Raise 4 children alone while he plays big shot lawyer. I wanted to defend him, but I couldn't, because she wasn't wrong. In 2018, things got worse. Or maybe they'd been bad for a while, and I was just finally admitting it. David started going to the gym, 5 a.m. every morning before work, came home talking about his trainer, his workout routine, his body fat percentage. You should join, he said one morning, get back in shape. I looked down at my body, the one that had carried 4 children, the one that was 40 years old, and showed it. I have 4 kids to get ready for school. When exactly would I go to the gym? I don't know. Make time. I make time. You also have a wife at home managing everything so you can make time. He didn't respond to that, just left for the gym. New clothes appeared, more expensive, trendier, clothes that seemed designed for a younger man, slim-cut pants, designer t-shirts, a leather jacket that costs more than our mortgage payment. Don't you think that's a bit young for you? I asked about the leather jacket. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. It's just, you're 40. That jacket looks like something a 20-year-old would wear. Maybe I don't want to look 40. Maybe I want to look successful, confident, modern, as if everything we'd built was somehow outdated, old-fashioned, no longer good enough. His phone was always in his hand now, texting constantly, even at dinner. The rare dinners when he was home, he'd have his phone out, checking messages, smiling at the screen. "Who are you texting?" I asked once. "Work, client, nothing important." But the way he angled the phone away from me, the way he'd quickly close out of messages when I walked by, it didn't feel like nothing important. I started noticing other things. He'd shower as soon as he got home from work, change clothes immediately, spray on cologne before leaving for the office in the morning. Cologne he never used to wear to work. "Why do you need cologne for the office?" "Because I'm meeting with clients all day. I want to smell professional." Professional, that's what everything was. Professional appearance, professional image, professional success. Our marriage had become a business arrangement, and I was the unpaid employee. Friends started commenting too. At a dinner party, Sarah, one of my closest friends, pulled me aside. "Is David okay? He seems different." "Different how?" "I don't know. Standoffish. He barely talked to anyone tonight. Spent most of the time on his phone, and when he did talk, it was all humble bragging about his cases, his success. He's just proud of his work." "It's more than that, Barbara. He didn't ask anyone a single question all night, didn't seem interested in anyone but himself." I wanted to deny it, but I'd noticed it too, the way conversations always circled back to him, his achievements, his importance, his success. The man I'd married, the one who'd listened intently, who'd been humble, who'd been grateful, was gone, and I didn't know where he'd gone, or how to get him back. By late 2018, David announced he was hiring a secretary, personal assistant. He corrected me, someone to manage my schedule, handle correspondence. "I'm too busy to do it myself anymore. The firm has secretaries. I need someone dedicated to just my cases, my clients." The partners agree. 2 weeks later, he hired someone named Lisa, 26 years old, fresh out of college, eager, ambitious, and according to David, incredibly efficient. "She's a lifesaver," he said. "Keeps everything organized. Anticipates what I need before I need it. Best decision I've made." He started mentioning her constantly. "Lisa scheduled that. Lisa handled it. Lisa suggested this approach. I met her once, briefly. David brought her to a firm event. She was beautiful, young, energetic, everything I wasn't anymore. "Your husband speaks so highly of you," she said, shaking my hand. Her nails were perfect, her dress expensive. "He says you're the reason for his success." I wanted to believe that, wanted to think David still saw me that way. But the way he looked at her when she laughed at something he said, the way he smiled when she touched his arm briefly, the way his whole demeanor changed when she was around, lighter, younger, more animated. I knew, somewhere deep down, I knew, but I didn't want to believe it. So I didn't. I pushed it down, told myself I was being paranoid, insecure, jealous of a younger woman for no reason. I was 40 years old, 4 kids, 20 pounds heavier than when we met, stretch marks, gray hair I covered with dye, exhausted all the time. Of course I was insecure. But it wasn't insecurity. It was instinct, and I should have listened. By early 2019, the signs were everywhere. I just kept choosing not to see them, or maybe I saw them but didn't want to admit what they meant. David was barely home anymore. He'd leave before the kids woke up, come home after they were asleep. On the rare occasions when he was there for dinner, he'd eat quickly, barely speaking, then retreat to his office. "Daddy doesn't live here anymore," Emma said one evening. She was 6 years old, too young to understand what she was really saying. "Of course he does, sweetheart. He's just very busy with work. Tommy's dad works too, but he's home for dinner every night." I had no response to that. Because she was right, the phone situation got worse. David was glued to it constantly, texting, smiling at the screen, typing quickly. Even when he was supposedly working in his office, I'd hear the constant buzz of notifications. One night in March, his phone was on the kitchen counter while he showered. It buzzed. I glanced at it. A text preview showed on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." No name, just a heart. Emoji. My stomach dropped. I picked up the phone. It was locked, of course, but that message, that heart emoji, it didn't make sense for a work contact. When David came downstairs, I was holding his phone. "You got a text?" I said. He took it quickly. Too quickly, checked the message without opening it fully. "Just a client, confirming a meeting." A client sends you heart emojis. What? No. You must have misread it. I saw it, David, a heart emoji. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. You're looking at my phone now, going through my messages. It was on the counter. It buzzed. I glanced at it. That's not going through your phone. It feels like going through my phone. I'm entitled to privacy, Barbara, even from my wife. Privacy. We're married. We don't keep secrets. Everyone keeps some things private. It's healthy. You're being paranoid. Paranoid. He made me feel crazy for seeing what was right in front of me. I started paying more attention after that. Watching, listening, trying to piece together what was happening. David started working late, even more frequently. 3, 4 nights a week. He wouldn't come home until after 10 p.m. Sometimes after 11. What case are you working on that requires this many late nights? I asked. Multiple cases. You wouldn't understand the details. Try me. Barbara, I'm tired. I don't want to explain complex legal strategy right now. Can we just not do this? So we didn't do it. We didn't talk. We existed in the same house, raising the same children, but living completely separate lives. In April, I decided to check the credit card statements. We had joint accounts. I'd always had access, but I'd never looked closely. Trusted David to handle the finances. What I found made my blood run cold. Charges at expensive restaurants, places we'd never been together, always on weeknights, always around 8 or 9 p.m. Flowers, sent to an address I didn't recognize. 3 times in 2 months, a hotel, in Boston, on a Tuesday night in March. We lived 30 minutes from Boston. Why would he need a hotel? I sat at the kitchen table, staring at these charges. My hands were shaking. This wasn't paranoia. This was proof. When David came home that night, I confronted him. The credit card statement was on the table between us. Explain this, I said, pointing to the hotel charge. He barely glanced at it. Client meeting ran late. Easier to stay in the city than drive home and back early the next morning. You didn't tell me you stayed in a hotel. I didn't think I needed to report every business decision to you. This isn't a business decision. This is our money, our marriage, and you're staying in hotels without telling me. One hotel, one time. You're making a huge deal out of nothing. What about these restaurants, these flower deliveries, client dinners, client gifts? It's all business related. This is what lawyers do, Barbara. We wine and dine clients. We send gifts. It's part of the job. 3 flower deliveries in 2 months, to the same address. A very important client. I'm trying to land a major account. Is that okay with you? Or do I need your permission to do my job now? He made me feel small, controlling, crazy for questioning obvious red flags. I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to understand why you're barely here, why you're spending money on things you won't explain, why you're acting like I'm the problem for asking basic questions. Because you are being the problem. You're questioning everything I do, making me feel guilty for working hard to provide for this family. I'm exhausted, Barbara, and instead of supporting me, you're interrogating me. I've supported you for 16 years. I gave up my career. I raise our 4 children, essentially alone. I manage everything while you build your success. And all I'm asking for is honesty. For you to talk to me, to treat me like your partner instead of someone you have to answer to. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The guilt trips, the passive-aggressive comments. I can't do this right now. He walked out, went to his office, closed the door. I sat there feeling like I was losing my mind. Was I wrong? Was I overreacting? Making problems where there weren't any? But then I'd remember the hotel charge, the flowers, the text with the heart emoji, and I knew I wasn't crazy. In May, I tried a different approach. Instead of confronting, I tried connecting, suggested we go out to dinner, just the 2 of us, tried to find each other again. I don't have time, David said. I'm swamped with work. 1 dinner, 2 hours. We need this. Need what? An expensive meal, an awkward conversation. I'm fine, Barbara. We're fine. We're not fine. You know we're not fine. Speak for yourself. I'm perfectly content. Perfectly content. While I was drowning, while our marriage was falling apart, he was perfectly content. I tried talking to my mother. She came over for lunch one afternoon while the kids were at school. Something's wrong with David, I told her. He's different, distant. I think he might be having an affair. Have you asked him directly? I've tried. He denies everything. Makes me feel crazy for asking. Then maybe you are being paranoid. Maybe he's just busy with work like he says. Even my own mother didn't believe me, or didn't want to believe it. By summer, David started making comments about my appearance, little digs. Casual cruelties disguised as concern. Have you thought about joining a gym? Getting back in shape? I chase for kids around all day. That's my workout. I'm just saying. You used to take care of yourself. Now you just wear sweatpants and t-shirts all the time. I'm a stay-at-home mom. What do you want me to wear? Ball gowns to make peanut butter sandwiches. Other women manage to look nice. Sarah always looks put together. Sarah, my friend, who had a nanny and a housekeeper and only 2 children and a husband who came home at reasonable hours. Sarah has help. I have 4 kids and a husband who's never here. There you go again, making everything my fault. In September, I did something I'd never done before. I followed him. David said he was working late, left the house at 7 p.m., supposedly heading back to the office for a client meeting. I got a babysitter, drove to his office building. His car was in the parking garage, but when I went up to his floor, his office was dark, empty. I waited in my car for an hour. He never came out. The next morning, I asked where he'd been. At the office, he said, working late like I told you. What time did you get there? Around 7:30. Why? Just curious. What case were you working on? The Morrison account. Why are you interrogating me? I'm not interrogating. I'm asking about your day. But I knew he was lying. His office had been empty. He hadn't been there. Where had he been? With her. With Lisa, the secretary he talked about constantly but claimed was just an employee. By October, I was exhausted. Exhausted from the suspicion, from the lies, from trying to hold together a marriage that was clearly broken. I want us to go to counseling, I told David one evening. Counseling? Why? Because we're not okay. Our marriage isn't okay. We need help. You need help. I'm fine. Maybe you should go to therapy. Work on your insecurity issues. This isn't about insecurity. This is about you being absent, about you lying to me, about you treating me like I don't matter. I'm not doing any of those things. You're creating problems that don't exist because you're bored. You need to find something to do with your time. Instead of obsessing over my every move, find something to do with my time. As if raising 4 children wasn't enough. As if managing his household wasn't enough. As if supporting his entire life wasn't enough. I stopped trying after that, stopped asking questions, stopped suggesting counseling, stopped trying to fix something he refused to admit was broken. Instead, I focused on my children, on making sure they felt loved, stable, secure. Even if their father was checked out, I would be there. But inside, I was dying, piece by piece, day by day, watching my marriage crumble, and being told I was imagining it. November came, then December. The holidays were tense. David was barely present. Even on Christmas morning, he was on his phone, texting, smiling at the screen while our children opened presents. Who are you talking to on Christmas? I asked. Work colleague, wishing them happy holidays. On Christmas. He was texting someone on Christmas and expecting me to believe it was just a work colleague. As 2019 ended and 2020 began, I felt something shift inside me. I couldn't keep doing this, couldn't keep pretending, couldn't keep accepting the lies and the dismissals and the slowly dying marriage. But I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to fix it, didn't know if it could be fixed. All I knew was that something had to change. Soon I just had no idea how dramatically everything was about to fall apart. January 2020 started like any other month. Cold, gray, the kids back in school after winter break. David back to his routine of leaving early and coming home late. But there was something different in the air, a tension I couldn't name, like standing on the edge of something about to break. David's birthday was on January 15th. He'd be turning 43. In past years, I'd make a big deal of it, plan a party, invite friends, make his favorite dinner, buy thoughtful gifts. This year, I didn't know what to do. We were barely speaking, barely existing in the same space. How do you celebrate someone who treats you like you're invisible? What do you want to do for your birthday? I asked him one evening in early January. He was on his phone, as usual. Didn't look up, nothing special. Maybe dinner with some colleagues, not with family. The kids are too young to appreciate a nice dinner out. And honestly, I'd rather just have a low-key thing with people from work. People from work. Not his wife, not his children. People from work. Okay, I'll make a cake then. We can do something small at home. Sure, whatever. That's what our marriage had become. Whatever. The first 2 weeks of January were particularly bad. David was gone more than ever. Some nights he didn't come home until after midnight, would slip into bed without saying a word, wake up before dawn and leave before I was fully awake. I was going through the motions, getting the kids up, making breakfast, school drop, managing homework, making dinner, bedtime routines, all of it alone, like a single parent living with a ghost. Jake noticed. Is Dad ever coming back? He asked one morning. He was 10 years old enough to understand something was wrong. He's here, sweetheart, just very busy with work. He's always busy. It's like he doesn't want to be here. Out of the mouths of children, the truth we adults work so hard to avoid saying out loud. He loves you very much. He's just under a lot of pressure right now. But even as I said it, I wondered if it was true. Did David still love his children, or had they become just another obligation, another thing taking up space in a life he'd outgrown? On January 10th, 5 days before his birthday, I overheard a phone conversation. David was in his office, door not quite closed all the way. I was walking past with laundry. I know, he was saying. His voice was different, softer, almost tender, a tone he hadn't used with me in years. I want to celebrate too, but I have to be careful. Can't just disappear on my actual birthday. That would raise too many questions. Silence while the other person spoke. Tuesday then, the day before, we'll do something nice. I promise. Just the two of us. My heart was pounding. I stood frozen in the hallway, basket of laundry in my arms, listening to my husband make plans with someone who wasn't me. I can't wait either, he said quietly. You make me feel alive again. I moved away from the door before he could catch me listening. Went to the laundry room, put in a load with shaking hands. You make me feel alive again, as if I had killed something in him. As if 16 years of marriage and 4 children had drained the life out of him and someone else was giving it back. That night at dinner, I watched him, studied him, tried to see any remnant of the man I'd married, the one who'd looked at me with wonder, who'd been grateful, humble, kind. That man was gone. In his place was someone I didn't recognize, someone whose phone never stopped buzzing, who smiled at screens instead of his family, who was planning secret celebrations with someone else. What are you staring at? David asked, catching me watching him. Nothing. Just thinking. About what? About how much you've changed. People change. That's life. You've changed too. How have I changed? You've become bitter, suspicious, always looking for problems that don't exist. The gaslighting was so smooth now, so practiced. He'd perfected the art of making me question my own reality. On January 14th, the day before his birthday, David came home at 5 p.m., earlier than he had in months, got changed, put on cologne, the expensive kind. I'm going out, he announced. Work dinner, might be late, on the night before your birthday. Client dinner, can't be helped. It's been scheduled for weeks. I watched him leave. Watched him get into his car and drive away. Knew he wasn't going to a client dinner. Knew exactly what he was doing, who he was with. You make me feel alive again. Those words played in my head on repeat, while I gave the kids dinner, while I helped with homework, while I put them to bed, while I lay awake waiting for him to come home. He walked in at 1:30 a.m. I was sitting in the living room, lights off, unable to sleep. What are you doing up? He asked when he saw me. Couldn't sleep. How was your dinner? Fine. Long. The client talked forever. Must have been some conversation. 4.5 hours. What are you implying? Nothing. Just noting the time. I don't appreciate the accusatory tone. I was working. That's what I do. I work so you can stay home and do nothing all day. Do nothing. Raising 4 children was nothing. Managing his household was nothing. Supporting his entire life was nothing. I didn't respond, just went upstairs to bed, lay there listening to him shower, spray cologne at 1:30 in the morning, getting into bed smelling like someone else's perfume mixed with his own. The next morning was his birthday, January 15th. The kids made him cards. Emma baked cookies with me. They were excited to celebrate their father. David came downstairs late, barely acknowledged the cards, ate one cookie, checked his phone constantly. What time will you be home tonight? I asked. I'm making your favorite dinner. Probably late. Big meeting this afternoon. Might run long. It's your birthday. And I'm 43, not 5. I don't need a party. Your children want to see you. To celebrate with you. Tell them I'll see them this weekend. Maybe we'll do something then. Maybe. He couldn't even commit to seeing his own children on his birthday weekend after he left for work. I went to the kitchen, started baking his favorite cake, chocolate with vanilla frosting, the same cake I'd made for every birthday since we'd met. I didn't know why I was doing it. He clearly didn't care, didn't want to celebrate with his family, was probably planning to celebrate with her instead. But some part of me couldn't let go, couldn't stop trying, couldn't stop being the wife who made cakes and planned celebrations and pretended everything was normal. The cake took all morning. I made it from scratch. 3 layers, perfect frosting. Wrote, "Happy birthday, David," in blue icing. Looking at that cake, I felt something break inside me. This beautiful cake for a man who didn't want it. Made by a wife he didn't see. For a birthday he'd rather spend with someone else. But I packed it up anyway, put it in a nice box, got dressed, did my makeup, tried to look like someone worth coming home to. At 2 p.m., I left the kids with my neighbor, drove to David's office, parked in the garage, took the elevator up to his floor. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. "Mrs. Thompson, what a nice surprise." I brought David his birthday cake, thought I'd surprise him. "Oh, how sweet. Let me buzz him. Let him know you're here." She picked up the phone, dialed, waited, hung up. "That's strange. He's not answering, but his calendar shows he's in the office. Let me try again." She tried 3 more times, no answer. He must have stepped away from his desk. "Do you want to wait? Or I can leave the cake with his secretary." "Where's his secretary?" "Lisa, she's out today, left around lunchtime, said she wasn't feeling well." Something cold settled in my stomach. David wasn't answering. Lisa was gone, on his birthday. "Actually, I'll just leave the cake here. Can you make sure he gets it? Of course, he'll love this. So thoughtful of you." I left the cake at the reception desk, walked back to the elevator. My hands were shaking. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, trying to process, trying to understand. Then I saw it, across the garage, in a far corner, a red convertible, bright red, impossible to miss. I'd never seen it before. It wasn't David's car. His black sedan was parked 3 rows over, but something made me walk toward it. Something made me look inside. Balloons in the back seat, birthday balloons, and a gift bag, and champagne in the passenger seat. I stood there staring at this car, at the balloons, at the obvious signs of a celebration. This was how he was celebrating his birthday. Not with the cake I'd made, not with the children who'd made him cards, with someone else. In a red convertible. I drove home in a fog, picked up the kids from the neighbor, made them dinner, went through the motions while something inside me died. At 8 p.m. David texted, "Working late. Don't wait up." I didn't respond. At 10 p.m., another text, "Heading home soon. Thanks for the cake. Receptionist gave it to me." I didn't respond to that either. He came home at 11:30, kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal. "Thanks for the cake. That was sweet of you." Sweet. Making a cake for a man who'd spent his birthday with his mistress in a red convertible was sweet. I didn't say anything, didn't confront him, didn't cry, didn't scream. I just went to bed and stared at the ceiling and felt something inside me finally, completely, irreversibly break. The days after David's birthday blurred together. I went through the motions, made breakfast, got the kids to school, cleaned the house, made dinner, put everyone to bed, repeat. But inside, I was falling apart. That image of the red convertible kept playing in my mind. The balloons, the champagne, the celebration I wasn't invited to, the life he was living without me. I didn't confront him. What was the point? He'd just deny it, make me feel crazy, tell me I was being paranoid. I was tired of being tired of questioning my own reality. Instead, I watched, observed, documented in my mind every lie, every absence, every moment that proved what I already knew. David barely came home anymore. 3-4 days a week. He wouldn't show up until after midnight. The kids stopped asking where he was. They'd accepted his absence as normal. "Is Daddy coming to my basketball game Saturday?" Jake asked one evening. "I don't know, I'll ask him." But I didn't ask. I already knew the answer. He'd say yes. Then, at the last minute, he'd have to work. Some urgent case, some important client, some excuse that sounded legitimate but wasn't. On January 25th, I was folding laundry in our bedroom when David's phone buzzed on the dresser. He was in the shower. I glanced at it. A text from Elsie. 2 words. "Miss you. Elsie." Lisa Carter, his secretary, his assistant, the woman who made him feel alive again. I put the phone back, finished folding laundry, didn't say a word when he came out of the shower. "You okay?" he asked, probably noticing my expression. "Fine, just tired." "You should take a nap. Rest. You look exhausted." I looked exhausted because I was raising 4 children alone while he lived a double life. But sure, a nap would fix everything. February came. The kids had a winter break from school, a whole week at home. I'd been looking forward to it, thinking maybe David would take some time off, spend time with the family. I can't take off next week, he said when I asked. Too much going on at work. The kids are off school. They want to spend time with you. I'll try to be home for dinner a few nights. That's the best I can do. He was home for dinner once that week. One dinner in 7 days. And even then, he was on his phone the entire time. On February 12th, I did something I'd never done before. I went through his car. He'd left for work early. His car was in the garage. I still had my spare key. I didn't know what I was looking for. Evidence, proof, something to confirm what I already knew. The car was clean, like it had been recently detailed. But in the glove compartment, I found a receipt. Dinner at an upscale restaurant in Boston, February 8th. 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, champagne, dessert, February 8th. The night he'd told me he was working late. The night he'd come home at midnight and said he'd been in depositions all evening. He'd been at a romantic dinner with her, celebrating something. While I was home putting our children to bed, I put the receipt back, closed the glove compartment, went back inside. That night, I barely slept, lay awake next to a man I didn't recognize anymore, a stranger wearing my husband's face. The next morning, February 13th, David came down for breakfast in a good mood, almost cheerful, humming while he poured coffee. Someone's happy, I observed. Just a good day ahead, big things happening at work. Big things right at work. Will you be home for dinner? Probably not. Late meeting, don't wait up, of course. Another late meeting, another night with her. After he left, I sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, stared at the wall, tried to figure out what to do, how to handle this, how to save a marriage that was already dead, or if I even wanted to save it anymore. My friend Sarah called that afternoon. Hey, want to grab lunch? Get out of the house. I can't. Kids are off school. No babysitter. Bring them. We'll go somewhere kid-friendly. You sound like you need to talk. She wasn't wrong. We went to a diner. The kids ate and played with the coloring sheets. Sarah and I sat across from each other, and I finally said it out loud. David's having an affair. Sarah didn't look surprised. I know, you know, I've suspected for months. The way he acts, the phone, the absences. I didn't want to say anything unless you brought it up. I feel like such an idiot, like everyone knew, except me. You're not an idiot. You're a wife who wanted to believe in her husband. That's not stupid. That's loyal. Loyal to someone who doesn't deserve it. So what are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do? I don't know. Confront him. He'll just deny it. Get a divorce. I have 4 kids and no job. I've been out of the workforce for 11 years. Who's going to hire me? You'll figure it out. You're stronger than you think. But I didn't feel strong. I felt broken, used. 41 years old with 4 children and a husband who wanted someone else. On February 18th, 3 days later, everything came to a head. I was making dinner when David came home, early 5:30. He never came home that early anymore. We need to talk, he said. Those 4 words, the ones that end marriages, end lives as you know them. Okay, let me just finish this. Now, Barbara, we need to talk now. I turned off the stove, followed him to the living room, sat down on the couch. He stood, couldn't even sit next to me for this conversation. I need some space, he said. Space, time apart, time to think, figure things out. Figure what out? If this is what I want, this marriage, this life. I feel suffocated, like I can't breathe, like I'm drowning in obligations and expectations. Obligations, that's what we were. His wife, his children, obligations. Are you having an affair? I asked directly. No more games. No more dancing around it. What? No. This isn't about someone else. This is about me. About what I need. Don't lie to me, David. Not anymore. I know about her. About Lisa. I've known for months. His face changed. Guilt flashed across it before he could hide it. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Explain it to me. Make me understand how my husband spending his birthday with another woman in a red convertible is not what I think. You followed me. I brought you a cake to your office. You weren't there, but I saw the car, the balloons, the champagne. I'm not stupid, David. I never said you were stupid. Then stop treating me like I am. Stop lying. If you want her, if you want out of this marriage, just say it. Have the decency to be honest for once. He was quiet for a long moment. I could see him calculating, trying to figure out what to admit, what to deny, how to spin this. I care about her, he finally said. I didn't plan it. It just happened. It just happened, as if affairs were accidents, natural disasters beyond anyone's control. How long? Does it matter? Yes, it matters. How long have you been sleeping with her? A year, maybe longer. I don't know exactly when it started. A year, while I was pregnant with Lily, while I was recovering from childbirth, while I was home with a newborn and 3 other children. He was with her, and now you want space. You want to leave. I need to figure out what I want. I can't think clearly here. With you always watching me, always questioning me, I feel trapped. Trapped. In the life we built together, in the marriage I'd sacrificed everything for. He felt trapped. So what does space look like? I'll stay somewhere else for a while. A hotel, maybe. Or I'll find an apartment. Short term. Just until I figure things out. You mean, until you figure out if you want me or her? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You're choosing between your wife and your mistress. It doesn't get more simple than that. Don't make me the villain here. You haven't exactly been easy to live with lately. You're angry all the time. Suspicious, accusatory, and there it was. The blame shifting, making this my fault. As if my suspicion and anger weren't direct results of his lies and betrayal. Get out, I said quietly. What? You want space. You want to leave, then leave. Get out. Figure out what you want somewhere else. But don't stand here and blame me for reacting to your affair. Barbara, that's not what I meant. I don't care what you meant. I care what you said and what you did. You want to go. Go. Pack your things. Leave. And he did. He went upstairs. I heard him moving around in our bedroom, opening drawers, pulling clothes from the closet. The kids were in the playroom. Lily was watching TV. The others were playing. They had no idea their father was packing a bag, leaving, choosing someone else. 20 minutes later, David came downstairs with a suitcase, stood in the doorway, looked at me like he expected me to stop him, to beg him to stay. I didn't say a word. I'll call you, he said. We'll figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. You made your choice. I need time, Barbara. That's all I'm asking for. Then take it. But don't expect me to be waiting when you're done. He left, walked out the door, got in his car, drove away. And I stood in my empty living room and finally let myself cry. David didn't come back that night, or the next night, or the one after that. 3 days passed, then a week, then 2 weeks. He texted occasionally. How are the kids? I'm staying at a hotel. I need more time. More time. To do what? To figure out if a 26-year-old secretary was worth throwing away 16 years of marriage and 4 children. I didn't respond to most of his texts. What was there to say? Come home. Fight for us. I was tired of begging for crumbs of attention from a man who'd checked out of our marriage long ago. The kids asked where he was. Jake, the oldest at 10, understood something was seriously wrong. Emma at 6 was confused. Noah at 4 just wanted his daddy. And Lily at 2 didn't understand why Daddy stopped coming home. Where's Daddy? Became the question I heard multiple times a day. He's working, I'd say. He's staying near his office right now because he has a big case. The lie tasted bitter in my mouth. But what was I supposed to tell them? That their father left us for his secretary. That he needed space from his family. That he was trying to decide if we were worth keeping. My mother came over one afternoon in early March, took one look at me and said, "You look terrible." Thanks, Mom. That's helpful. I mean it. You're not sleeping. You're not eating. You're going to make yourself sick. My husband just left me. I think I'm allowed to look terrible. Has he said what he wants? What his plan is? No. He just keeps saying he needs time. Meanwhile, I'm here raising 4 kids alone, wondering if my marriage is over. Then make a decision. Stop waiting for him to figure out what he wants. Figure out what you want. What did I want? I'd spent so many years focusing on what David wanted, what the kids needed, what everyone else required from me, that I'd forgotten to think about what I actually wanted. Did I want him back? The man who'd lied to me for over a year, who'd chosen another woman, who'd told me I was suffocating him? Or did I want to be free, to start over, to build a life that didn't involve constantly questioning if I was enough? On March 10th, almost 3 weeks after David left, he called, not texted, actually called. Can we talk? He asked. About what? About us. About what happens next. Okay, when? Tonight. I'll come by after the kids are in bed. He showed up at 8:30, stood in the doorway like a stranger asking permission to enter his own home. We sat in the living room, the same room where he'd asked for space, where he'd packed his bag and left. I've been thinking. He started, for 3 weeks. I hope you came to some conclusions. This isn't working. This marriage, it hasn't been working for a long time. My heart sank even though I'd known this was coming. So you want a divorce? I think it's best, for both of us. You deserve someone who can give you what you need. And I need to figure out who I am outside of this. Outside of us, outside of the family we'd built. And Lisa, is she part of your figuring out who you are? He hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. She's been supportive during this difficult time. Supportive, is that what we're calling it now? Bafra, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You're ending our marriage. You're abandoning your children. How exactly could I make this harder? I'm not abandoning anyone. I'll still be their father. I'll still support them financially. Money isn't parenting. Being here is parenting, and you haven't been here in months, long before you physically left. He had no response to that. What happens now? I asked. We'll need to figure out custody arrangements, financial splits, the house, everything. You've really thought this through. I've had 3 weeks. 3 weeks to plan how to dismantle 16 years. 3 weeks to figure out how to divide up our lives. 3 weeks to move on while I was still trying to process that he'd actually left. I'll get a lawyer, I said. That's probably smart. I have one too. Of course he did. He'd probably had one before he even asked for space. Had probably been planning this for months while I was still trying to save us. He left 20 minutes later. This time, it felt final. Not, I need space, but I'm done. I sat in the dark after he left. 41 years old, 4 children, about to be divorced from a man who'd chosen someone half my age over the life we'd built together. I should have felt destroyed, devastated, broken. And I did feel those things, but I also felt something else, something unexpected. Relief that I didn't have to wonder anymore, didn't have to question or doubt, or try to fix something that couldn't be fixed. It was over. And maybe, just maybe, that meant I could finally start figuring out who Barbara was without David *. The divorce process started in April. Lawyers, paperwork, negotiations, over who got what after 16 years of marriage. David wanted to split everything, fit the house, the savings, the investments, as if the years I'd spent raising our children while he built his career counted for nothing. My lawyer was a woman named Jennifer Sharp. No nonsense. She took one look at my situation and said, he doesn't get to walk away with half of everything when you sacrificed your career to raise his children. I just want it to be over. And it will be, but not at your expense. You're entitled to support. For you and those kids. The negotiations dragged on for months. David fought me on everything. Spousal support, child support, custody arrangements. He wanted the kids every other weekend. Acted like that made him father of the year. 2 weekends a month. Jennifer scoffed. While she has them full-time, he's going to pay for that privilege. Meanwhile, David wasn't hiding anymore. He was seen around Boston with Lisa, at restaurants, at events, living openly with the woman he'd been secretly seeing for over a year. A friend sent me a photo in May. David and Lisa at an outdoor cafe. He had his arm around her. She was laughing. He looked younger, happier, like the weight of our marriage had been dragging him down, and now he was free. It hurt more than I expected, seeing proof that he'd moved on so quickly. So Isali, you okay? Sarah asked when she came over and found me crying. I gave him 16 years, 4 children, my entire career, and he replaced me in 3 weeks. He didn't replace you. He traded down. That girl is using him, and he's too stupid to see it. I wanted to believe that, wanted to think he'd regret this. But looking at that photo, he didn't look like a man with regrets. By summer, the divorce was nearly finalized. David would pay child support and alimony. I'd keep the house. He'd have the kids 2 weekends a month and alternating holidays. On paper, it looked fair. In reality, I was a 41-year-old single mother of 4, with no career, and an ex-husband, living his best life with a woman young enough to be his daughter. The kids struggled. Jake became angry, withdrew into himself. Emma cried at random times. Noah started having nightmares, and Lily stopped asking for daddy because he was never there anyway. This is destroying them, I told David during one of our rare conversations. They'll adjust. Kids are resilient. They shouldn't have to be resilient. They should have a father who didn't abandon them. I didn't abandon them. I'm still their father. I just can't be married to you anymore. The divorce was finalized in August, 6 months after he'd walked out. 16 years of marriage over. I waited to feel something when the papers were signed. Relief, sadness, anger, but mostly I felt numb. This was my life now. Single, 41, starting over from nothing. David moved in with Lisa, officially, that same month. She posted about it on social media, a photo of them in front of what I assumed was her apartment. Caption, new beginnings. New beginnings for them, while I was still trying to survive the ending they'd caused. But something was starting to shift, inside me. Slowly, painfully, like waking up from a long sleep. I'd spent 16 years being David's wife, defining myself by that role. And now that it was gone, I had to figure out who I was without it. It was terrifying, but also, in a strange way, it was freeing. Asterisk. The first year after the divorce was survival mode, getting through each day, keeping the kids stable, learning to be on my own after 16 years of marriage. But by late 2021, something changed. I started taking classes at the community college, updating skills I'd lost during my years as a stay-at-home mom, started thinking about going back to work, building a career again. The kids were adjusting. Slowly. They saw David twice a month. Sometimes he'd cancel, always had some excuse, some emergency at work. He's with her, Jake said bitterly. One weekend when David canceled again, he was 12 now, old enough to understand what had happened, old enough to resent it. Your father loves you. He's just busy. He's not busy. He just doesn't care anymore. I couldn't argue with that because it felt true. Then, in December 2021, something happened. David called, not texted, called, which he never did anymore unless it was about the kids. I need to talk to you, he said. His voice sounded strange, strained. About what? Can I come over? It's important. He showed up an hour later. He looked terrible, thin, tired, older than his 44 years. What's wrong? I asked, despite myself. Everything. He sat down heavily. Barbara, I made a huge mistake. With Lisa. With everything. Here we go. I thought. The regret speech. She's been stealing from me. For months, maybe longer. I'd just found out. She had access to my accounts, my credit cards. She's been moving money, buying things, taking cash. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. I stared at him. What? She cleaned me out. And now she's gone. Left 2 days ago. Won't answer my calls. Her apartment is empty. She took everything and disappeared. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction. The woman he'd left me for had destroyed him. Karma at its finest. But looking at him, broken and desperate, I mostly felt nothing. I'm sorry that happened to you. I need your help. My help. I need somewhere to stay. Just temporarily, until I figure this out. I can't afford my place anymore. She took everything. He wanted to come back. Not because he loved me. Not because he missed his family. Because he needed someone to save him. Again. No. I said simply. Barbara, please. I have nowhere else to go. That's not my problem. I'm the father of your children. You can't just turn me away. Yes, I can. You left us. You chose her. You made your decision. Now you have to live with the consequences. I made a mistake. I know that now. I never should have left you. You're right. You shouldn't have. But you did, and I've spent the last year and a half rebuilding my life without you. I'm not going backward. I'm asking for compassion, for help, like you've always helped me. And I'm saying no. Like you said no when I asked you to choose our family. Like you said no when I begged you to go to counseling. Like you said no to 16 years of marriage. He looked at me like I was a stranger, like he couldn't believe I was capable of refusing him. I can't believe you're being this cold. I'm not being cold. I'm being smart. Something I should have been 2 years ago. He left, angry, desperate, alone. 2 days later, I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved in with his mother. At 44 years old, he was living in his childhood bedroom, because the woman he'd left his family for had taken everything. I waited to feel vindicated, triumphant. Some sense of justice served. Instead, I felt sad, not for him, for the years I'd wasted, for the man I'd thought he was who'd never really existed. But I also felt something else, pride. For the first time in years, I'd put myself first, said no, refused to be the person who fixed everyone else's problems, and it felt good. By 2023. My life looked completely different. I'd gone back to work, started as a marketing coordinator at a small firm. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. My career, my income, my independence. The kids were thriving. Jake was 14, doing well in school despite everything. Emma was 10, sweet and resilient. Noah was 8, finally sleeping through the night again. And Lily was 5, happy and mostly unbothered by memories she was too young to fully have. David saw them occasionally. He'd gotten back on his feet financially, found a new job, but the damage to his relationship with the kids was done. They were polite, distant. The hero worship they'd once had for their father was gone. "Do we have to go to Dad's this weekend?" Jake asked one Friday. "He's your father. He wants to see you. He wants to feel like a good dad without actually being one. There's a difference." Wise, beyond his years, that kid. In the spring of 2023, I met someone, Richard. He was 52, a divorced father of 2 grown children. We met at a work conference, started talking, exchanged numbers. Our first date was coffee. Simple, easy. He asked questions about my life, and actually listened to the answers, looked at me like I was interesting. Worth knowing that it was such a stark contrast to the last years of my marriage that I almost didn't know how to handle it. "You seem surprised that I'm interested in what you have to say," he observed. "My ex spent the last few years of our marriage acting like I was the most boring person on earth." "Then your ex-husband was an idiot." Richard was kind, successful, treated me with respect, didn't play games, said what he meant, showed up when he said he would. It took me months to trust it, to believe it was real, that someone could actually value me, see me, want me for who I was, not what I could do for them. By 2024, Richard and I were serious. He met my kids. They liked him, especially because he didn't try to replace their father, just treated them with kindness and showed up for their events. "Mom seems happy," Emma said one day. "She does, doesn't she? Happier than when she was with Dad." Out of the mouths of children. David found out about Richard eventually, tried to act like a concerned father. "Are you sure this is appropriate, introducing the kids to someone so soon? It's been 3 years since our divorce, and you moved in with your secretary the same month you left. Don't lecture me about appropriate." He had nothing to say to that now. In 2025, I'm 46 years old. I have a career I'm building, a partner who treats me like an equal, 4 amazing kids who've learned resilience in ways I wish they hadn't needed to. And David, he's still single. Lisa disappeared with his money and was never found. He works, pays child support, sees the kids twice a month when they're willing to come. Sometimes I see him at school events. He looks older, tired, like he's carrying the weight of choices he can't undo. I don't feel angry anymore, don't feel much of anything toward him. He's just the person I used to be married to, the father of my children, nothing more. People ask me sometimes if I'm bitter, if I hate him for what he did, for leaving me for someone who destroyed him, for the years he wasted. The answer is no, because being bitter would mean giving him power he doesn't deserve, would mean letting what he did define who I am now, and I refuse to do that. My husband left me for his secretary, but he never expected what happened next. He expected me to fall apart, to need him, to take him back when his perfect new life imploded. Instead, I built a better life without him, found someone who values me, became the person I was always meant to be, and that was the best revenge I could have ever gotten. My name is Barbara. I'm 46 years old, and I'm living proof that it's never too late to start over, to rebuild, to become more than the person who hurt you expected you to be. If this story reached you, drop your city in the comments. Let me know you're out there. And if you're going through something similar, know this: you will survive, you will rebuild, and you will be stronger than you ever imagined. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories like mine. Stories about survival, about strength, about refusing to let someone else's choices destroy you. Because that's what we do. We survive, we rebuild, we thrive, and we never, ever let them win.